This is PvP on the last spaceship. PvP has been such an interesting matchup lately. There's a lot of different options that players can go for. For a while there, it was only 4-gate, and then some Blink Obs came up next, and then all of a sudden it started blossoming into an interesting matchup. Well, spawning on the westmost spawning position, we have our yellow Protoss player, and his name is Crane for you. And spawning in the northmost spawning position, our blue Protoss, GamaniaGow. So I imagine that's going to be Gamma, that's Team Gamma, and we have Faux You down here, so very, very chill. Actually, I want to just check out APM action. I'm going to follow Crane's camera and see what happens, see exactly what he's doing. Oh, nothing interesting. Perfect. So both these players should, I imagine, be going for something standard. I mean, when you're in this kind of a position, you don't really want to risk too much, especially if you want to get into the grand finals to make any money whatsoever. If you pull too big of a risk, your opponent comes out ahead, and you can't do that again. In fact, your opponent's in a position where he can take a risk, and you know, if it works out, then that's it. You're gone. So both players should be roughly confident enough in their ability to make this. To really play out a macro game. At least, well, not fully macro. This is PvP. I don't want to give you the idea that we're going to 4 bases or anything, but or necessarily even 2 bases. But you know, I imagine that we won't see necessarily something cheesy. If we get past this first kind of volatile section of the match, that's when players start expanding, and that's when strategy really starts to develop. We see both players going for that first gas, and the question is, will players actually go for that second gas? That's what changes it, makes a difference. That was what really makes a difference. I love this. Gow being very, very, very diligent, checking around all the little places that proxy racks can be. This is such a huge map. You don't want to get in a position where there's 2 proxy racks outside of your base, and you waste the opportunity to go towards a macro game because you think you're better than your opponent. So Gow just being very, very safe, and that's exactly what you expect from this caliber of a player. Crane, if he throws down a gas, will be doing it fairly soon once he gets the money for it. You know, you'll actually see a lot of players. Yeah, there it is, actually rallying that probe out to be able to do that. So that's a pretty neat move. We finally see Gow's probe getting in, and his opponent did send out that probe as well. So both players should be able to get a full scout on their opponents, especially even if zealots are coming out. They're super, super slow, and nope, 1 hit, 2 hits. Oh, that was very, very close. Gow almost getting the scout off. He will see. Excuse me, almost getting the hit on that probe that he needed. Of course, now that probe's in his base, Gow very, very smartly grabbing that second gas, because that does 2 things. It keeps his opponent from really knowing exactly what's coming his way. He scouted that there was a lot of chrono boost, and Gow cancels the gas. That's exactly what I imagined might have happened. He canceled that gas. It looks like he's going to be going for a 4-gate. He already has a proxy pylon down here in this particular area, of course, but that's just a backup pylon. He will be putting more out on the map, as you would expect. We should be seeing 3 gates go down from him, and 1, 2, 3. There we go. 4 gates now total for Gow, and a robotics bay, robotics facility rather, proxied. So if his opponent gets into his base, which won't happen, he has a zealot and a stalker, he'll see those 4 gates. But this proxy means that he's going to be able to resupply his army from here and have that very, very short rush distance. So the robo facility will, and in fact, he can actually just go for a warp prism. That would be amazing. If he went for a warp prism and went 4-gate robo to get that warp prism out, the warp prism ends up in the back of the base. 4-gate coming from that warp prism instead. And of course, look at that. That's exactly what he's going to do. This means that he can actually use this 4-gate to his complete advantage. It will be a little bit late, so his opponent might be thinking, you know, my opponent can't be 4-gating me at this point. I saw that second gas was down. It's past 5:45, which is when warp gate finishes and when that first push usually starts to come. But this is going to be a completely different position. Oh, the observer comes out. Is he going to see it? Is he going to see it? Did he? I don't think Crane, you saw it. He didn't see that observer. He doesn't even have anything back here. He has his pylon, which is pretty nice, but Let's see, here we go. He's going to be pushing from the front and the back at the same time. Units pushing up. All Crane's units are out in the back, and this Warp Prism immediately drops those Zealots into the main. All the probes being able to try to keep the damage from happening. But it looks like even another warp in. This is a huge amount of units at the front of his opponent's base, or inside of his opponent's mineral line. 2 Stalkers stuck on the outside, but this is going to be it. Crane isn't going to be able to come back from here, especially with all those units lost. If we look out, it's 19-12. And there are still units being warped in the base. I mean, this Crane, I cannot imagine him coming back from this in any way, shape, or form, even with that Immortal out. He knows exactly what happened to him. He's going to be able to plan for that next game, and he's going to GG. So